Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. She'll also bring insightful interviews with successful business owners who have used networking to expand their businesses. Building relationships is the heart of networking, and generosity is the cruise ship that will navigate you toward those important relationships for your business or career. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Hello there, and welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I'm glad you found the show. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you have standing to ask for opportunities from people when you need them. How do we create opportunities for others, and how do we ask for those same opportunities? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. It's what I'm here for. Let's dive into episode 33. And I have a really fun guest for us this morning, Brandi Gilstrap with Becoming Wildly Well. Brandi, welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Faithann.
Brandi and I met a while ago, and I'm so glad that Brandi said yes. I think she's going to have some really good insights for us about the brain and about some online networking that we could be doing in association with our in-person networking. First, I want to tell you how I met Brandi. So I was at a Mix and Mingle many years ago, and I just happened to be sitting next to you, Brandi, and Sybil, the founder of Mix and Mingle Networking, which is a local networking organization in where we live in the OKC Metro. And you all were just talking, and something you said just really piqued my interest. And you both, well, we love Sybil, and then you seem like a really friendly person. And I had just done a podcast with Amy Singleton. And so I remember just leaning over and saying, "Hey, Brandi, if you need a podcast guest, I'm here for you." I don't know what gave me the boldness to do that, because we didn't even know each other at the time. And you agreed right away. You were sure. So then you invited me on. So I've always appreciated how open you were for almost a stranger to come. But Sybil was helpful in the glue that kind of connected us together.
Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. It's so funny how fast time flies. You don't really, I think that, I think God's in certain people in your life, because if you remember something like that, such a small time, but you remember it like repetitively, you're like, oh, maybe that was for a reason. So I love how he always connects things like that. So beautiful. And Sybil, of course, being a part of that story too is even better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There just aren't very many networkers that don't know Sybil Hale. So she's a great connector, and she has a nice strategy that listeners you might consider adopting. So her events, she goes to a lot of them. So in order to save time, she will schedule her one-to-ones immediately before her networking meetings. So it really helps her save time, because she's not, it's one less place she has to go. And then, when she invites them, did you stay for the meeting that day, or did you have to something else?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I stayed. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a great segue, now that we've just had this great conversation, stay for some more networking. And so you make great connections that way.
Yeah. I love that strategy. And it's just saves so much time.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brandi, I'm really, I attended a training of yours recently, and you talked a lot about how our subconscious mind is really the driver of a lot of things that we say and do and decide. And even in business, we aren't separate people in our personal lives than we are in our business life. And I was wondering if you might share a little bit about how the subconscious affects us when we're in business and we're trying to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we don't have two different brains. We have one brain. So we don't have a brain that gets to run our business and then a brain that gets to run our life. So everything is so interconnected and interrelated. And someone called me the other day, someone I'm having do some SEO for my businesses. she said, you don't market like this, but everything I've learned about you, I feel like you're really like the holistic business coach. It's not just about business, it's about the whole person. And I think the brain and understanding how your brain works and understanding how your thoughts work can ultimately help you build a business that makes you feel excited and not wanting to just burn out or burn it all down. Because how many of us as business owners have thought, what did I get myself into at times? Then, between the different, like we just talked about at the beginning of this call, rescheduling clients or, the different conflicts, whatever it is, if we don't understand what thoughts are running our lives, we can absolutely become almost victims to the business and not be letting ourselves run the business, but the business begins running us.
Mm-hmm.
So our subconscious brain, and we have two brain thoughts. So we have a conscious brain, which is the one me and you having a conversation consciously. And that's only responsible for about 5 to 10% of our thoughts. So we only consciously are aware of 5 to 10% of our thoughts. Underneath that, I call it the iceberg. So underneath the iceberg in the water is the other 80 to 90% of our thoughts, right? So 90% of our thoughts are the subconscious thoughts that we believe. So all of us as business owners, we started this business for a reason, right? So we were like, hey, I want to have a business and make X amount of money and help X amount of people. So when we first started, we thought, well, all we have to do is, if we want to have a business, we start the business, we file the LLC, and then we get the next client, and then we go to the networking event, and then we serve them well, and then we rinse and repeat. But in the middle of all of that, so much enmeshment happens, and there's so much drama and chaos that our brain, our survival brain, starts causing us, such as imposter syndrome, or am I good enough? Or why didn't that client go with me? Does that mean something about me? Or why did I miss that opportunity? So we begin to have this kind of war with ourselves. And we have to understand that when we are in conflict with our own thoughts, it's usually because we are in what we call fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is our brain telling us, I don't feel safe. And so now let me just throw all these different, so many of us, instead of being focused and having clarity and focus and discipline, when you're in fight or flight, you've got 1,000 ideas. Every single entrepreneur, I swear, says they're ADHD. And it's not that, some of them might be, that's a legitimate thing, but I think so many of us are not ADHD. I think we just have a problem with focusing because we're in fight or flight and we're just trying to earn the next money. We're trying to get the next client. We're trying to scale the next goal. And we're always having that never ending, when I get there, then syndrome, right? How many of us have fallen into that? So what I really like to teach, Faithann, is first at a nervous system level. So we have our subconscious thoughts, but underneath the subconscious thoughts and all of the mindset work is our nervous system. And when we're in flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, especially like cash flow in business, right? Whatever kind of business you have, some businesses run where they have a really big launch of $100,000, but then they have 3 months where they're barely scraping by. That's just the name of the game. It's not like a linear journey. And that can put our body in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn where we don't feel safe, secure in our businesses. So I always start with teaching people how to regulate their nervous system. One of the most effective ways to do that is breath work. There's a breathwork facilitator, which is a great friend of mine. Her name's Sherry Lynn Breathwork, and she actually holds hour-long sessions to kind of like re-regulate your nervous system more effectively. But a really quick tool that I want to share with people at Networking Tour Guide is the 4-7-8 breathwork model. So when you inhale 4 through your nostrils, then you hold that breath for 7, and you elongate the exhale for 8 seconds. You do that 5, 6, 7 times. You will notice that panic brain of like, what am I going to do today? And I have all these things on my mind and I feel frozen, or I'm just doing a bunch of things that aren't moving the needle. I'm just keeping myself busy being busy. When you do that 4-7-8 breath work and you do it 5, 6, 7 times, what you're doing is you're activating what we call the vagus nerve, which runs the central nervous system. So you're telling your vagus nerve, hey, I'm in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, but I actually am safe and secure, and I want to get back into my parasympathetic nervous system. And Faithann, when we're in our sympathetic nervous system, that's our rest and digest. This is where we digest food. This is where we learn to rest. But even more importantly, people don't miss this part. This is where we create. This is where people are like, I got this download. I got this incredible idea. I had this incredible meeting, because we feel safe to let go of all the extra things in our brain and to have a clear focus about being back in alignment with our purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so the other question I would have is, could it be also that when you regulate your nervous system through this breath work, maybe it's not the creative that you need at that moment. What you need is like, I have 8 things to do and I have no way of prioritizing which is more important. So could that also help you get some clarity around, I mean, I don't need to be creative. I just need to get the invoices out, but I also need to get the posts out. And I also need to do this, and this.
Yes, you're wearing all the hats. That's what we do as business owners. We wear all the hats. So when we're regulating our breath, instead of being like, what am I going to do first? And you end up doing the thing that's not even the most important. When we're in a sense of safety, you actually are able to prioritize things in a better way. So I would just challenge anybody on this episode so knowledge is not power. Tony Robbins says this quote. He says, knowledge is not power. You can listen to this podcast and all these incredible experts that come on, and listening is one thing, but integrating and implementing. So taking this breath and saying, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm going to set a 5-minute timer, and I'm going to do a 4, 7, 8 breath. And I'm going to see how much better I prioritize the tasks on my list. I'm going to see how much more productive I am and how much productivity is boosted by literally learning to feel safe in my body. And I'm going to see how many more clients I bring in, because my nervous system is at a capacity to receive, and it's safe to receive more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you're talking about the nervous system being able to receive when you're regulated,
Yep.
Do you think there's opportunities that we miss? Like clients to wanting to work with us, but we're so dysregulated that we miss those opportunities?
Absolutely. Think about being at a networking event. You walk in and you feel great. You know, at first you're a little bit nervous to go to this, but you get in, you get comfortable, you find your spot, and you're like, okay, it's really not that bad. But then people start standing up and they start giving the elevator pitches. Faithann stands up. Hers is just, too good to be true. Then Sybil stands up and you're like, okay, ladies, like, I thought my body felt safe to be here, but all of a sudden the brain chatter just comes through and it's like, gosh, mine's not going to be that good. What am I going to say? How do I say it the right way? How do I slow down? All these things start going through your brains, because for all humans, nobody's different, right? So you start comparing, because that's what we are literally wired to do. You start comparing what's around, and you're like, when I first got in here, I knew I needed to talk to an insurance agent. But that agent, when she stood up, she's kind of intimidating. She just was so confident and she had it going. And so guess what you do when that networking event ends? When you're not feeling safe and secure, your brain is clouded and you just walk straight out the door out of fear, out of overwhelm. There's a million different reasons, but you're not actually who you were born to be. Who God created you to be is the person that is relatable, the person that can walk up like Faithann did to me when I first met her. Hey, Sybil and Brandi, I don't know you, but I'd love to be a guest on your podcast. That's an opportunity you could have missed. We could have never connected. And over the last few years, we would have lost that connection had you not felt safe. And you said something about me, which I appreciated. Like, there was something about Brandi that just made me feel like she was very approachable.
Right.
And so but then also, if I wasn't approachable, then guess what would have happened? Your nervous system would have went off and said, no, don't do that. And you could have missed that opportunity.
Yeah, I love this theme. You continue to talk about being safe. And, as adults, we, at least for me, we don't give ourselves permission to feel unsafe. It's like, you're a grown adult. What do you mean safe? That's for 3-year-olds. They need to feel safe. But I can see just from listening to you how much it would affect you, the networker, the business owner, that their behavior really does rely on how safe they feel in an environment. And it's not like mamby-pamby to feel unsafe, because like Brandi is telling us, a lot of this happens unconsciously. And so we can't really control that unless we're intentional, and we know these things that Brandi's telling us, that we need to slow down, we need to breathe in, do that breath work that she talked about. And then what else is it just the breathing, or there's some things we could tell ourselves to help us feel more safe, so that we do go and talk to that insurance agent after the meeting?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say is not only is it the question of do I feel safe? But as human beings, whether you're an 8, 9 figure entrepreneur or you're just a beginning business owner getting started building your book of business, we all answer these questions subconsciously every day. We're wired to answer these questions. Am I safe? Am I enough? And am I loved? At our core, when we're born, right? When we're born into this world, we're dependent on someone else. So we're always asking, even as infants, am I safe? Am I enough? Am I loved? And so many people aren't bringing this into entrepreneurship, and they're thinking, I just keep having these same patterns, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Why do I not show up to the networking event, even though I keep saying I'm going to? Why do I not make the right connections, even though I think I'm going to? There's something under the surface that you haven't yet understood. That's so important. So at the foundational level, you have to feel safe. That's your nervous system, getting back into rest and digest, where the creativity, where you feel more productive, where you can actually focus. The next step is understanding how to rewire the neuroplasticity in your brain, not just by sitting in the mirror and saying, I am beautiful, I am enough, I am loved, right? Those are affirmations. They're beautiful, but they don't get down to the core issue. So the core issue is understanding, what is the subconscious belief that I'm continuing to believe? So I always like to walk my clients through what I call the thought model. And basically at the very top of this thought model, you draw a graph and you put a line down the middle, and you start on the left-hand side, which is the unintentional thoughts you're having. So for this example on this podcast, we're going to use the circumstance of networking. So you write down your circumstance. The circumstance is, I came to this networking event and I want to talk to 3 new insurance agents, but I just feel like there's already so many roofers here, as an example. It's a roofer, that's right. There's already so many roofers here. Why would I talk to those 3 agents? Who cares about what I have to do, right? That's the circumstance. I want to talk to 3 new insurance agents, but I'm in my head about it, right? So then we're pen to paper, Faithann, is so important because we're getting those subconscious thoughts out and making them conscious. So now I'm going to ask, what's the thought behind the fact that I want to reach out to these 3 agents after this event, but I'm not? What's that thought? For so many of us, what if I'm not good enough? Or what if my business isn't big enough? Or insert your enough, because as humans, we all have this, right? Where none of us are excluded from this. So what's the thought that's keeping you from doing that? Get real honest with yourself on a pen to paper situation. After you write down that thought, I want you to write down the feeling. What does it make you feel when you think the thought, yeah, my business isn't big enough to talk to those people yet? The feeling you would have is maybe being insecure, doubt, imposter syndrome. So you write that down in the feelings. What action do you take when you feel insecure, imposter syndrome? What's action when you feel that feeling? This is so good because I worked with thousands of clients. The actions we take are the same as our nervous system response, Faithann. So we either freeze, fight, flight, or fawn, which is the people pleasing. So we either just freeze and we leave the room, or we fight and we go talk to a bunch of people in the room that have nothing to do with what we came here to do and keep ourselves busy being busy. Or we try to find somebody to like people please them, like, oh yeah, I'll help you do that, even though we have no desire to actually help someone do that, right? And then what result do you get? You're either in the same place, you continue to repeat the same cycles, you're not any further along in your business and in your networking journey than you want to be. So that's the unintentional side. So now we're working on the neuroplasticity in our brain, because we have about 100 different researchers say different amounts, but about 85,000 thoughts per day running through this beautiful brain of ours. And remember, we're only conscious of 5 to 10% of those. So then we go to the intentional side and we say, we want to rewire this neuroplasticity in our brain. We want to make our brain believe that whatever that thought was, I'm not this enough, is actually not true. And it's a lie. It's a belief. You've made it a belief. And remember, the word belief has the word lie in it.
Okay.
So you've turned that belief into a lie, like I'm not enough. That is a lie. We know it. It's facts, right? And so we go to the right-hand side and we go to the intentional side, which is what I would have these people draw out. And the thought is, what's a new intentional, same circumstance. I want to network to these 3 agents. So you write down the same circumstance on the right-hand side. But the new thought is, I want to talk to these, so the circumstance is I want to talk to these 3 agents. So the new thought could be something like, maybe the fact that my business, because the thought was my business is too small and maybe it's not, who am I to stand out? So maybe the new thought is, the fact that my business is so small is an advantage because I can actually give these people so much more of my time and my effort and actually really build a deep relationship with them because I have the bandwidth. It has to be something that you believe. It can't go from what we do with affirmations in the mirror. It's like you're broke and you get in the mirror and you're like, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. And you're like, I just don't really feel like it's true, right? So it's got to be something believable. Like I am on my way to making the amount of money that I desire. Or being new means that I have more opportunities to build deeper relationships, whatever that looks like, right? So you put your new thought there. And what does that make you feel? Well, that would make me feel more hopeful, more excited, and like, wow, like being new, now I get to build, like I get this opportunity. So you feel that hopefulness, that opportunity, that excitement. And what action does that make you take? Well, I'm walking straight up to those 3 agents. And not only am I walking up with them, this is a really big part, Faithann. I'm not walking up and, hey, I'm Brandi.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, you've seen it so many times. I'm walking up to you, I'm nervous, and you can see it on my body language, and I'm awkward. I'm walking up to those 3 agents. Hey, Faithann, I'm Brandi Gilstrap. It's so nice to meet you. And I'm giving the energy that these people want because everything is about the law of attraction. Like attracts like. So if I give them my imposter syndrome, I'm in my head, I'm not good enough, versus if I give them like, I have the opportunity to build this relationship with somebody and help them impact their family and create a win-win relationship where I pay them, they pay me. It's a beautiful relationship. And I go and deliver the conversation and meet them in that way. It's a completely different energy. And so what's the result?
Business.
Possibly. You stand out. Yeah. And it might not be, this is such a big thing too. It might not be business in that moment. You don't walk up to them and say, oh, I'm this. And they're like, okay, great. I've got something for you. It's like this opportunity for business. And next time they have a need, they don't remember half the people that came to that networking event.
Right.
Because half of them came up and, hey, Faithann, hey, I do this. You don't remember them, but they remember the energy you brought to the conversation. And that ultimately gets you to where you want to go.
This is so good. So I'll try my best to recap what you said. So you have you work with your clients in changing the neuroplasticity of their brain by having them write down the unintentional on one side and the intentional on the other side. And we're changing the thoughts from the negative and we're turning them into something that is true, but that is positive. And then we think about how that would make us feel. And then we think about what the actions that we're going to take as a result of feeling that way. That is very, very, very cool. And how long do people usually have to do this before they don't need, they don't need to write it down anymore? It just becomes, as soon as those negative thoughts come in, they go through this process, but they just do it really quickly because they don't need to write it down. Or do they always need to write it down?
That's a great question. It's going to depend on the person, and it's going to depend on how deeply rooted is the thought of the unintentional thought they're not wanting to feel, right? How is it something that's just like not that bad? Like once you get it switched up, it's good. But I always say 21 to 30 days to create a new neural pathway. Again, different researchers have different amounts, but about 21 to 30 days of doing this each day on one thought will actually take away the energy you have towards that negative thought. You almost become like an observer over time. Like, I seriously thought that I had a disadvantage because of this. Like, you take away that power that it has over you. And again, though, this is a lifelong journey. Once you get in a habit of understanding that actual conceptual, circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result that I just shared, you can start doing it in your head as a habit. But I always say 21 to 30 days, write it down. Even if you're at the networking meeting, you don't have your sticky note and you don't have a pen, put it in your notes app as you're going, whatever it is. But it's just really that pen to paper is going to retrain that so much faster. But then guess what? New levels, new devils.
I love that. Okay.
Right. So then it's like, dang, I feel super capable, but now something else has come up. I have so much business that I just don't feel like I can serve everybody the way that I want to. That's my new thought.
Right.
So every time I go to a networking event, I hide myself because I want the business, but I don't know if I can have the business. And so then we go back into the neuroplasticity again, and we just continue to realize and catch those thoughts in real time and say, is this true? That's the first question I would ask.
Okay. Is
this true? Mm-hmm. Is this true? If my best friend told me this thought, would I believe it?
Okay.
It's a lot easier to take yourself. When we're in our head, we're our worst critics, right? Mm-hmm. So if I say I'm not good enough, I'm like, Is it true? Okay, that's not true. Would I let Faith Ann tell me this?
Mm.
No, absolutely not. She's so capable.
Hmm.
So now I get to rewire that new thought, feel a new feeling, take a better action, and get the result that I desire.
This is so good. I have an example. As you were talking, I thought of this. So back in 2019, in my BNI, which stands for Business Networking International chapter, we each have a time where we can give a feature presentation, which is longer. Well, it was my turn to speak, and I was in the midst of probably, my brain just running circles around my logic. My subconscious was really working overtime, I guess, because I became a full-time caregiver to my mother the day my dad died, because she had Alzheimer's. The day he died, it's Faith Ann. Faith Ann is the new Linda Horton's husband. I mean, that's how she saw me, and that's how everybody else saw me, is, okay, Faith Ann's now going to take care of mom. Yeah. I've got this business. Okay, so this is so interesting, Brandi. You'll appreciate this. So it came time for my week to give my presentation. And what you do in BNI, is you send a bio to the secretary that the secretary reads before you stand up. So it was that week. And she comes up to me, the secretary, and she was the one who sponsored me in the group. So this was not her at all. I love her. She's a mentor to me. She goes, Faith Ann, do you have your bio? I started crying. Mm-hmm. Because at that time, there was no way for me to prioritize what mattered and what didn't matter, because my brain was I was in that I don't know which one, you tell me, but I was in a terrible position. So then I look back at that, I'm like, I cried because I didn't have my bio. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But I think what you're saying kind of sheds some light about maybe why I cried.
Because the small things become so big when our nervous system is at capacity and it's overrun. And so you were in, I believe, from what you told me, is functional freeze. So freeze is you sit at home, you do nothing. But you were trying to go to your BNI while being a caregiver, while taking on all these different roles, being a mom, being a business owner. And so you're like, I'm here, but I'm totally frozen inside. And so when it's like you make something so small, it becomes so big. And this is why so many entrepreneurs burn out, or they want to just burn their business down. And this is why I started my business in the first place, Faith Ann, because many decades of my family has been entrepreneurs. They've been successful millionaires, decades. And every single one of them, Faith Ann, the pressure got so large because all they focused on was the strategy and the next business plan and the next BNI and the next speech and all the next things to get where they wanted to go, that they neglected their mental health and the emotional resilience along the way. And so they ended up not building from solid foundation, which is why none of it lasted for a long time.
Hi, listeners. Do you struggle when it comes time to deliver your introduction or pitch at your networking meetings? Faith Ann has put together the 8 tips she uses to make her introduction stand out when she networks. And now you can use them too. Imagine walking into your next event with confidence, knowing exactly how to stand out so people actually remember you. These tips are designed to spark your creativity so you can bring more personality, energy, and originality into your introduction, helping you feel more confident and making it easier for people to connect with you. Grab your free copy of 8 Ways to Make Your Introduction Stand Out by clicking the link in the show notes and download it today.
That really hits home, yeah. And
so easy to just go to the next thing and go to the next thing and what's required of us. But why do we build businesses, and why are we doing networking? Why are we all doing this anyways, if it feels so shitty and we feel so burnt out, you know?
Yeah.
We could go get full-time jobs and probably not make more money, but we could probably feel a lot more at peace because we would know all the predictability.
Right.
So why are we doing this to ourselves in the first place?
Right. And I will say there's a lot of unpredictability at a networking meeting. So this would be so important for you to come in with a little bit of understanding of your nervous system, because you really don't know. You know kind of what's going to happen, and you certainly can have all the tools that you need. But you can't predict everything that's going to happen. And one time I was at a networking meeting, and this was when I was networking for Window Cleaning Plus fairly early on, and someone, it was a restaurant chain manager of a restaurant. So in my mind, I was like, oh, well, this would be a good person because, window cleaning. And he looked at me, he said, well, what sets you apart? And I was like, what sets me apart? I don't know. That was like, and I went into fight, flight, or freeze. I go like, good night. What sets me apart? Where if they asked me today, I could say something. That question irritates me anyway. What sets you apart? Good night. But if he wanted to know what set me apart, he could have asked me a few more questions, but it very much felt like a quiz. And that can happen, that can happen at a networking meeting. And it would be you'd be wise to not let that be like the make or break of your.
Well, because then it turns you into someone you're not. That's what happens when we're not regulated, is it turns you into someone you're not. And so you say something that you wouldn't normally say, or you act in a way that you wouldn't normally act. And it's like, we want to show up as our most authentic self. And when we go to networking events, if we're putting on a show, it doesn't last long. People always figure you out. So just try to be yourself. And the best way to be yourself is to learn what are the thoughts that are running who you are. And then am I in a regulated state where I'm not going in? When you're not regulated, a lot of times you can be going in and saying, what's in this for me?
Yeah.
That's that survival mode, right? When we're in survival, we're thinking about us. We're like, what's in it for me? But when you go in there and you're in this safe space and you're like, okay, I'm here to give.
Right.
And the two greatest things we can do in life is to give and to grow. And so this networking opportunity is going to give me an opportunity to give, and it's going to give me an opportunity to grow in relationship with other people. And when you can do that, the energetic match is just unheard of. It's beautiful.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about one more thing. I wanted to make sure that I asked you about. You are very good at, what would you call it, online networking. And I would love for you to give the listeners some tips about how they can network online as well as in person, because that is something that you're much better at than me. So what can the listeners, what can that travel agent, what can that hair salon owner, what can that realtor do online that would be helpful to do in a networking framework?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you help people with their elevator pitches, and that's something that just goes straight from in person to online and vice versa. So that's something that they can take and make sure that they have something that's really clear, because online is a lot busier than in person. In person, you're with 40 people or 30 people. Online, you're in a sea of people. So you've got to have an elevator pitch that really has people perk their ears, right? But more so than that, Faithann, is storytelling. So when you use your content online to tell stories that create a connection point, the people are 22 times more likely, this is based on research, 22 times more likely to remember you next time they have a problem that you are the solution for.
Okay.
So when I say telling stories, there's millions of types of stories. I have a freebie that actually they can download. I can send it to you, but there's different ones. The biggest one is the hero's journey. Letting people know who you were before you started your business, what event or multiple events, did you experience along the way, and where are you now, and what are you doing? What's the solution that you have? And the important thing is this story needs to do three things, Faithann. It needs to build credibility, letting people know why you're the expert. It needs to show authenticity. Like, is this something like, are you different than us? Or does it give this moment of like, oh, that's me too. I was struggling with my productivity and my calendar. Me too, right? And then the third thing is it needs to display some vulnerability. And people get vulnerability wrong because they think it means you got to like share all your dirty laundry, but it just needs to be honest of like, I remember feeling not qualified for that networking event, or I remember being nervous to reach out to XYZ. So just showing people that you're human and that you're relatable. So the credibility, the authenticity, and the vulnerability creates the connection points inside of your story. And anytime you tell a story in your content about why you do what you do, who you are, tell us about your family, things that aren't always related to business, right? Then they're 22 times more likely to like, know, and trust you next time they have something that you need. So that's one big thing, is storytelling. The second thing I would say, and then the elevator pitch was the second thing. Then the third thing is people don't realize that there's a gold mine on Facebook and I teach this to all of my clients, that Facebook groups
Okay.
are, yeah, they're places where people already have the need that, or the problem that the solution, they already have the problem inside of these Facebook groups. And they're on the Facebook groups because they're looking for solutions to these problems. And they're not just Facebook groups with 50 people or 500 people or 5,000 people. I mean, there's Facebook groups all over the internet with 300,000 people. How to start your window cleaning business. You can probably find a Facebook group on that.
Mm-hmm.
How to be the best networker you can. You can probably find a Facebook on that. Anybody who's in a group called How to Be a Better Networker absolutely is an ideal client for the Networker's Tour Guide elevator pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are gold mines where you don't just go in there to get clients. This is a really big thing I see wrong, is like you go in there pitching yourself right away. But you go in there telling stories and building relationships, giving value first. The value could be commenting on a post with an incredible suggestion, or it could be, hey, I saw that you're struggling with how to tell the right stories in your business. Here's a free guide that I have that you can download, and you can do this all on your own. So giving the value first, telling the stories, and then ultimately they follow you, you follow them, you're building that connection that leads to a sale and ultimately them getting the solution that they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's what the Networkers Tour Guide Facebook group does. That's my Facebook group, and I love seeing the people interacting with each other. It's so fun, and I love to see when one member will ask a question of another member. Well, tell me more about that. What you do? I'm like, yay! There's connection happening. So it's not all about me. But it's a platform within a platform that people can come and. Brandi, one of the funnest posts are, where are you networking this week? Yeah. And that came from, I asked one of my referral partners who's been a real big cheerleader for me since day one, when I started the Facebook group, and she was very active in it. And I said, hey, would you have lunch with me? And I want you to tell me what you want in this group. What would you like to see? And she said, well, when you post, like, where are you networking this week? Because I just did it once on a whim. She said, I like that because then I can see who all is going to be where I might be. Or I can say, oh, she's going to be, if one's on the fence, I can see, oh, well, I want to see Holly. I want to see Brandi. I'll go to that one where I was on the fence before. And I said, oh, well, that's good to know. So now that is a repeating post on Mondays. And so people can go in and they can kind of see where people are. And it's one of the most popular posts of all of them is, where are you networking this week? It's so simple, but it's
so simple, but it's an anchor. That's an important thing too. Is like, as a Facebook group, is you have to build anchors, because anchors build safety and security. People know what to expect, because as humans, we all want to know what to expect. We all hate change, right? So you're putting something in there that's anchoring people. And it's like, when you come to this group, you're going to know where we're all networking. We're being transparent. We're being authentic. We're letting each other know where we're at. And I think that's probably why it does so good, is they feel like this is repeatable, and there's a place where like people aren't changing it up on me all the time. So that's really a good tip too, if you run your own Facebook groups as well.
So do you tell your clients not only to participate in them, but to start their own? Are there certain types of clients that you should start a Facebook group?
Yeah, this is a big topic. This is a really big topic because I don't have my own Facebook group.
Okay.
I've thought about it hundreds of times. But specifically for me, I feel like I already am going to create the same content on my page as I do on a Facebook group. So I'm going to double my effort, because what I call is, my business is more of a personal brand, which means I offer retreats, but I also offer coaching. So there's multiple things that I'm doing on the platform. And my Facebook groups, I really hold for paid clients who come in and they need something a little bit more exclusive, a little bit more community, a little bit more deep. However, that's not like everybody. I don't believe in a one size fits all approach. I believe that there's people who have Facebook groups that do great and they love it. But I've always just done better not having a Facebook group, because I don't have the energy to run two different things that are basically essentially the same thing. So I think a Facebook group is really great for super niche issues and problems in a business. And then if you're going to give fully to the Facebook group, you can't just create a Facebook group and hope people are going to interact. You've got to, again, creating the prompts, like you're creating like, hey, let's be in community. You've got to really have a lot of intention when creating a Facebook group. It's so important.
Right. Yeah. And I go live once a week, and that's very intentional, because I know, if I don't if I only go live when I feel like it, then I'm not creating any consistency. So I go live whether I feel like it or not. In fact, the last time I went live, or maybe it was the time before, something my daughter was going through had just happened. And I could look back on like, oh, that was low energy, Brandi. I was low energy, but I thought it's better for me to show up even low energy and a little bit stressed than to just not show up. And so Facebook groups are fun and they're easy. They're fairly easy to set up. And so if you're comfortable navigating Facebook and you have a niche thing, like Brandi said, consider starting one, but for sure participate in them and do it with a giving first, and then be consistent, be the person that people know they're going to see, just like in person. And that might be a way for you to, this would be a good question for you. Okay. So when you are recommended, when you're tagged in a group or a post, someone's like, I need a business coach. And then someone tags Brandi. So I have a way that I do it for Window Cleaning Plus, but I'm curious, do you have any advice for how to handle it when you're tagged?
Yeah. Well, I first think that when you're tagged, the very first thing you need to do is thank the person that tagged you, because they took effort out of their time and out of their day to say, this is the person that I'm going to recommend. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is if I'm tagged once versus if I'm tagged multiple times, there's a little bit of a different approach. If I'm tagged multiple times, I'm not going to message that person multiple times, obviously, but I actually don't believe in cold DMing people, because if somebody wants what I have to offer, they're going to come and do that, right? So I always reply back to the person that asked for the recommendation and say, hey, Faithann tagged me here. I'd love the opportunity to speak with you on a phone call. Send me a message if you want me to send you the link. And I just leave it at that. If they don't send me the message, then maybe I'll go build a deeper relationship with them, add them as a Facebook friend, kind of see what they've got going on. But I just don't believe in high pressure sales. And also, they need to have the opportunity to see what else is on there, because I'm not the best fit for everybody. And I know that, and I might have a better recommendation. So I always say that too, is, hey, I'd love to have a conversation with you and book a call. If I'm not the best fit for you, I absolutely can give you recommendations for somebody that you might want to interview moving forward that can actually give you what you need. Those are my kind of approaches to that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think I'm noticing a trend now is people are asking for recommendations anonymously, because the business owners are not understanding. Yeah. So when I'm tagged on Window Cleaning Plus, I will thank the person who tagged me. And often it's several people. And then what I'll do is I say, hi, let's say it's Nancy. Hi, Nancy. I own Window Cleaning Plus. May I send you a DM? So that's just what I do. And then I don't send people to a website. I don't, because I want that personal, now I'm talking to a real person, and I'll say, okay, well, the next step. But sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I never, ever, ever cold DM them, even when I'm tagged.
Same.
And I think that can give the business owner a false, I don't know what you would call it, but
reputation.
A what?
Reputation, like a false reputation that they're needy, or that they're trying to like bug you.
Yeah. And I would add like a false sense of security. If you've got like 8 people tagging you, it may give you that false bravado to say, well, 8 people tagged me, I'm going to send them a DM. Yeah. When even it doesn't matter, you still need to ask, because people don't like it. They're just asking for recommendation. They're not, we don't know what stage they are in their decision making. And so that's yeah.
And then instead of just being like, like so aggressive, it's just like, hey, if you have the opportunity to get on the phone, that's great. If not, then we're on to the next thing. I think that's so important. And that's why people are doing that anonymous post, which is boring. It's like, we want to see who's asking for what and what people need. But like, if we're being so high pressure that people are like, I can't even ask for something on this page because I'm going to get, it's the worst with roofing companies, because my husband and I are a roofing company. And so as soon as someone's like, get a recommendation, and then there's like 95, roofing companies being tagged. And I can't imagine if, let's say, even 10% of those people are messaging you, then you have 9 options in your messenger, and then you're overwhelmed. So you know what you do? You know what your nervous system does?
It shuts
down. Yeah. And you do nothing. And so it's like, give those people space in their messages and let them be the ones that are being active and that are being assertive to get what they need. And this is just for the business owner. Do you want somebody who's not going to like take action? So it's almost like, just as much as clients are interviewing you, you're interviewing them.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody asks for something and they don't follow up properly, they don't do something, it's like you are already qualifying them before you even qualify them by not sending them a DM.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, this has
good.
been a very fun conversation. I can't wait for the listeners to take in everything that you've talked about their nervous system and about that intentional versus unintentional thoughts and actions, the progression that you laid out for us. I really love it. And I always ask people 2 questions before we wrap things up. So what do you not like to see when you network?
Oh, that's a good one. I think when I network, I don't like to see people almost, if you're networking for your business, but you're almost leading with like this friendship thing first, like, oh, like I would love to go to the park, but you have an ulterior motive behind that. I would rather you just be honest and say, hey, I'm a networking tour guide and I'd love to be on your podcast. Like a very direct ask instead of having an ulterior motive behind what you're doing. So when I network, I just wish people could just say what they want and what they need, allow us to meet that need, and then we can build a relationship forward. But don't do it the opposite way because it feels sleazy and inauthentic and it just doesn't feel good for people.
Yeah. If someone's wanting to be your friend, quote unquote, because they want your business, that doesn't feel the same as somebody wanting to be your friend because they like you or they see a potential there. Okay.
Yeah, and just say it. Just say, hey, hey, Brandi, I love your personality. I'd love to go out for coffee. But if you're wanting something business related, just make the direct ask because people appreciate you being authentic more than they appreciate you trying to pretend you want one thing when you can feel that it's something else.
Yeah. And I tell people too, don't offer to buy somebody coffee because that can be taken as, hey, I bought you coffee. Now you
do me a favor back.
Right. You owe me something. So don't offer to buy it. Now, what can happen though, what's really fun is if you just pick up the tab at the end and they don't know. And so I got this, but don't do it as a I'd love to buy you coffee. Cause the first thing that someone thinks is, okay, great. What do you want from me? You're buying me coffee. So yeah,
I see this also, you're talking about in-person networking, but I also see this online a lot where somebody like will share a post about like, Faithann is such a great person. I've met her recently and I just love her personality. And then 2 weeks later, you see that same person that shouted that person out, asking that person, hey, you should join my program. You should do that. It's like, was that a friendship or were you giving them a shout out in return for something else? And it's just gross.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yeah. Well, what do you like to see when you network?
Yeah, I love to see a win-win relationship and just people leading with authenticity and like being direct, right? So, hey, Faithann, I'm being direct. I'm looking right now for 3 new roofing clients. But what are you looking for? Because I'd like to help you find what you're looking for too. Not, Faithann, you want to go out for coffee and you want to go on a date and it's just like very direct.
Yeah.
And we're transparent. It's like we all are business owners. We're all looking for business or we wouldn't be at the networking event. Let's just get honest about that.
Right.
So, be honest up front, and then let's build a relationship deeper from there.
Yeah. Well, maybe that was why you said yes to when I hadn't thought of it, but I was very direct when I asked, if you need a guest, I'm available, and you appreciated that I wasn't trying to dance around the issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It feels so good. And I don't we all are humans. We all have selfish motives. Unfortunately, that's just how we were wired. So we all are trying to win, but that's okay as long as you're trying to get people to win alongside you and bring people up together.
Oh yeah, that's great. What a great way to end. So Brandi, where can people find you online if they want to talk to you more about regulating their nervous system and getting some business coaching at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a Facebook page, which is my just Facebook profile, which is Brandi with an I, Gilstrap. On Instagram, I'm also Brandi Gilstrap. And then my website is www.becomingwildlywell.com. Those are the places people can find me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we'll have all that in the show notes. And I'll do if your free brand thing is available, I can put that in there too.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll send that over for everybody to experience that.
Okay. Well, listener, as you go out and network, remember that you can be direct. It's okay to be direct, and that you can stop those negative thoughts and turn them into positive, and it will affect the way that you show up, and it will affect the opportunities that you find yourself in the middle of. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann Brandi. Share this episode with a friend, and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networker's Tour Guide.